sees the memes of production, and the like and subscribe button. A false story can travel around the world before the correction makes its way out the door, something like that, right? Before truth can get its foot in the door, something like that, you know, something in that ballpark. Well, the reason I bring it up is because yesterday the Associated Press put out a full-page headline for the Strait of Hormuz opening. Now that ship be closed, where's the full spread, huh? Where's all the info, huh? Lie can make it halfway around the world before the truth has gotten its boots on. Yeah, something like that type shit. So what's where is it? Where's the Strait of Hormuz is closed again, huh? You know what those are? If I'm not mistaken, IRGC gunboats. The IRGC put on radio, they said, hey, motherfuckers, the pool's closed. Pool is still closed. And fired on some tankers. From gunboats. Not with something that would blow up the tanker, but, you know. You get it. That looks like a normal fishing boat, TBH. Have you heard of a technical? A technical, in the military parlance, is when you weld a light machine gun to the back of a pickup truck. Yes, sir. 50 cals make anything military? Yeah, and I'm sure if you fired at the same spot at the hull of a tanker for long enough, a 50 cal would eventually, you know, put a hole in it. Maybe. I really have no idea. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. I have no idea. It'd be kind of a funny way to sink a tanker, huh? Just park your gunboat next to it and spend like 5 minutes firing a, you know, 50 cal like at the same spot. You're just slowly denting it in. You need to put a lot of ammunition in, I think. IRGC gunboats opened fire on a tanker and an unknown projectile hit a container vessel, damaging some containers. Oh, unknown projectile damaged containers? Okay, so that's a drone or some kind of not gunboat, I think. I don't know if 50 cal could damage some containers with an unknown projectile, but I don't know. Fog of war. So the strait's closed again, folks. Pool's closed due to... I couldn't think of something that rhymes with AIDS. That's topical. Here's Trump's response. Here's Trump at the Oval Office. I believe he's with... Is that Joe Rogan? I think that's Joe Rogan. So here he is with Joe Rogan, RFK Jr., you know, leading men of our time.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You see that? He was asked a question. Sir, I noticed the Strait of Hormuz. Sir, I noticed that you've exited your 47th consecutive rug pull, and the Strait of Hormuz is not actually open. What do you have to say to that? Out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
It's crazy how contemptuous they are of you, man. It's insane how openly they're this country to death and how little they care what you think about it, man. Like, even the most tin pot dictators need to put in more effort into pretending that they're like defenders of the people than this. Just the whole... He's so cunty. The whole, like, that's great. If I was doing the out gesture, I would just do this. But he does this whole, like, you know, the flick of the wrist. It's so good.
Thank you very much, everybody.
He is doing the low tier guide. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
What do we know as to what's happening right now in the Strait?
Yeah, interesting as well, listening to the president saying that he's not going to be held hostage by Iran. He did say that he thought things were going along well. I think everyone thought about 5 or 6 hours ago. Since then, the Iranians have appeared to attack 2 shipping vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. One tanker just off the coast of Oman, so very close to the Strait of Hormuz, said 2 IRGC Iranian gunboats came at it and didn't talk to it on the radio, literally opened fire on this tanker. The crew and the vessel are reported safe, and then about 2 hours later, in the same area,
Trump has not put out a Truth Social since the Strait reclosed. Incredible.
Identified projectile hit a container ship. Some of the containers damaged. No fire, no environmental damage. But this comes just hours after the Iranians said they were reversing their opening of the Strait of Hormuz. We've heard a lot of pushback from hardliners in Iran saying that that move essentially was too soft and that they are not responding well to the fact that President Trump said that the U.S. blockade would remain in place. Iran accuses the United States here.
This is the correct move from Iran because the United States and Israel are objectively violating terms that Iran set out for the ceasefire. For one, Iran doesn't want a ceasefire with itself and with Lebanon. It wants a permanent peace deal. For two, Israel has to leave Lebanon, which it is saying that it will not do. For three, the U.S. has to end the blockade, which it didn't do. There are a bunch of provisions from Iran that the United States and Israel are not following, so Iran's really under no moral obligation to maintain this weird artificial straight open situation. That being said, it does seem like there's some kind of critical infighting going on in Iran right now. I don't know if the civilian government is being more deferential to the West or if they just have a different plan and a different timeline, but it looks like the IRGC is unsatisfied with the level of aggression demonstrated by the Iranian government. We also don't know exactly how clear the communication coming out of Iran is. Keep in mind that over the past month and a half, we did kill like a bunch of their leaders. And we've been bombing critical communication structures and leadership posts. So there is a big, like in a lot of places in Iran, different leadership, they might actually have difficulty like contacting each other, like in a very basic and conventional way, you know? It's not, they don't have like Starlink or anything, you know? I imagine that in some cases, they're just not able to reach each other over the phone. I'm not entirely sure. So we don't really know how consistent the information coming out of Iran is. We also don't know if the Western media is reporting accurately on what's coming out. We do get everything through a filter after all. Like, you can read Al Jazeera all you want, but there's still a bias there in what's made available and accessible. And a lot of it just comes down to, like, what gets translated out of Farsi into English, you know? So the IRGC isn't in charge of the government. How does that work? The IRGC reports to the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, and is the effective head of the country, the military wing and leadership of the country, but they don't technically control the day-to-day leadership of Iran. That would be the civilian government. The IRGC has the power, but we don't really know how coordinated they are right now because their leadership did get taken out at the beginning of this war. So it's probably a mess in there. I don't know if Iranian moderates are trying to take charge, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were some forces in Iran trying to work against the IRGC right now, which makes sense because the IRGC is evil.
Of not following through on its obligations on the ceasefire. So we've gone from a point of early this morning where things looked like they were moving along well, talks getting close, people talking.
So this is Western propaganda. At no point has the peace dealing between Iran and the United States been coherent on either side. At no point have their goals for what they want or what they're allowed to do or what they're allowing the other to do, at no point have they lined up. Like, Iran and the United States have not agreed on a single critical point, from the opening of the Strait to Israel pulling out of Lebanon to a permanent ceasefire / like peace deal to what's done with the nuclear material buried underground. Like, nothing has been agreed upon. The idea that Trump was just close to a deal is fake and also part of market manipulation. It's just not true.
About potential of talks here in Islamabad in a couple of days. Iranians upping the ante, and I think perhaps that gets to what the president said. He's not going to be held hostage, and he said he's expecting an update on the situation later today.
Nick, how much of this has to do with the situation in Lebanon with Israel, or are these events concentrated based on concerns over the Strait itself?
Absolutely. The Iranians opening the Strait of Hormuz was based on the fact that they saw President Trump and the Pakistani negotiators, the field marshal here, Munir, get this ceasefire in Lebanon. That was a big part of moving things forward. But the Iranians They then did a quid pro quo and opened the Strait of Hormuz because, of course, they wanted that ceasefire in Lebanon. They thought there'd be a positive response from the White House. That's what they're saying. What we've witnessed is a negative response in Iran to President Trump's response. We've even seen internal tensions in Iran between the hardliners and the moderates. The moderates are the ones who were in the negotiations. The hardliners have been saying that, had been threatening to reclose the Strait of Hormuz. They've gone.
A lot of people want a lot of different things, Nick Nack. I think that, like, I understand that there's a bunch of ways this can play out and nobody knows the future. I think that the hardline response from Iran is the correct one here, and I think it's the one that preserves the most lives in the future. I think the most dangerous future for the Middle East is the one where America and Israel get whatever they want, right? America started this war. Israel's currently ethnically cleansing southern Lebanon. Like, they are the instigators here. If they continue to get whatever they want, they will keep taking whatever they want, and we'll just end up in this position again, but for higher stakes down the line. It's the same reason why, like, even if you believed that Ukraine fighting against Russia would be a ruinous war for both sides, which it has been, it's better to push back through Ukraine than to allow Ukraine to be taken and then have to redo this in Poland. You know? You don't want to have to do this again like 5 years from now, when an even more bitter, more expansionist, more angry, fascist government in Russia tries to pull this shit again. Iran has to fight back. There's no way out through here except I guess like functionally a military castration of Israel. It has to stop. It has to stop at some point.
Hadn't done that. Their gunboats appear to be attacking maritime vessels, tankers, container ships close to the Strait of Hormuz. So the two things are interlinked, but we're now back to the bigger issue here of U.S.-Iran.
What does a hardline response from Iran mean here? The IRGC should keep the strait closed until Israel retreats to its borders and begins to take a number of internationally sanctioned actions to demilitarize and renege on its actions against the Palestinian people. Obviously, the hardliners in the IRGC would probably prefer that Israel self-Samsons, but that's not really realistic. They need to stop. Israel needs to stop. We've only talked about it a little bit, but are you guys aware of the fact that, like, there are hardliners in Israel that have been posturing for conflict with Turkey lately? Not just Turkey, Egypt too. Jordan isn't so much on the table, even though they're a part of Greater Israel, because Jordan is subservient to the US and there's not as much of a like antagonistic force inside Jordan. But these people are crazy. I do not want to be that motherfucker back in 1938 being like, there's no way he goes for Poland, man. There's no way he goes for Poland. Come on. You really think after Austria and the Sudetenland that he would go for Poland? Come on. I'm not going to be that motherfucker. I'm not doing it.
Tensions, do we talks, or does this latest escalation at the Strait of Hormuz, does it scuttle all of that?
The president said that we'll know more later today, and I imagine that will be the case. Nick Robertson in Islamabad, thank you for that report.
This latest escalation could mean big issues for oil and gas prices. So let's discuss now with Yahoo finance correspondent Ben Worschel. Ben, good morning to you. Obviously, the impact, the consequence of these Iranian gunboats firing on a tanker go beyond that exchange. It's the chilling, as Nick said, of any willingness of any of the other companies to send their vessels through. Fit this piece of the puzzle.
What's the reaction in the oil prices? Unsurprisingly, they go down more than they go up. Somebody shorted nearly $1 billion in oil yesterday. Again, it's all speculative. You can keep running this as long as you want, man.
Into what has been clear as mud over the last 24 hours about the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, I think chilling is the right word here, and this is a chill that's been in evidence even through all these ups and downs from the shipping industry, even with this announcement of an opening of the Strait of Hormuz. These latest developments in the last hour will clearly amplify that further. But the shipping industry has been very wary, even as oil prices have come down, of increasing their
speculative oil price. I really wish, I think that you could introduce a lot of financial literacy into the mainstream if news outlets would start referring to speculative pricing separately from real pricing. Like, because you always would conventionally if you were talking about like regular day-to-day home good purchases, right? Like the difference between buying something 6 months in the future and buying something now. Like obviously you would distinguish between those two. Those are two separate things. I wish they would do that.
Through. We've seen ships start to come through and then turn around. We've seen a few, as Nick mentioned, a cruise ship getting through, but that is kind of more of the exception rather than...
Oh yeah, for some reason a cruise ship, I assume the Northern Lion Super Cruise charged the strait and made it through. I have no explanation for this, but it did happen. A cruise ship. I guess the IRGC just decided there was no harm in letting it go through. I don't know. It ran right through.
The rule at this moment. Prior to the war, it was over 130 ships that would pass through the Strait of Hormuz on a given day. Now we're hoping for sort of 20 on a given day, and we're not even there yet. So what I'm hearing a lot from the shipping industry is that this is going to be a long road back, even in a best case scenario here of a Strait of Hormuz, some sort of level of reopening. Obviously, the last couple hours have made that even more difficult, but this is going to be a long road back with hundreds and hundreds of ships still stuck on either side of the strait.
Yeah, those vessels, and we can put the map back up.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your ship captain speaking. We're deciding to try something fun. We wanted to get you back home in time for your regularly scheduled events, so we are going to be taking you straight through the strait. By me opening the like port side window, the little like hole window on the side of the like ship bedroom to see gunfire outside. Missiles slamming into the hull of the cruise ship. No, it's good.
Not moving on rhetoric, right? They need some proof. They need some security. The oil prices yesterday certainly moved on rhetoric. Brent crude down 9%.
Yeah, that's all they fucking do. Move on rhetoric.
Around
I know.
$90 or so a barrel. I wonder, is the expectation that after what we saw today, that the inverse is going to happen?
Well, could be, yeah. We will.
Yeah, okay. I don't need to hear about oil speculation. Listen, the Brent crude futures might go up and down. You'll notice the prices at the pump are not going down right now. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. The whole situation seems up in flames right now. I don't know how long the infighting in Iran is going to continue, but eventually things are going to coalesce around the IRGC because they are still the source of real power. Also, here's an exclusive article from the Wall Street Journal that came out just a couple hours ago. And by just a couple hours ago, I mean 20 minutes ago. U.S. military prepares to board Iran-linked ships in coming days, officials said. All the bullshit we've been hearing for the past few weeks, as we've discussed, has been an attempt at manipulating the market, so it makes sense that the Pentagon has been keeping the real weapons in the back pocket. We're escalating. Board Iran-linked oil tankers and seize commercial ships in international waters, according to U.S. officials, is expanding its naval crackdown beyond the Middle East. Now, it's worth noting that, unlike in Venezuela, if the U.S. decides to board an Iranian oil tanker, Iran might decide to just blow it up. If Iran thinks that it's not getting that back, which they probably won't, they could just fire at it. They know exactly where it is. The planning comes as the Iranian military continues to tighten its grip in the Strait of Hormuz, attacking several commercial vessels on Saturday as it declared the waterway was being strictly controlled by Iran. The development sent shipping companies scrambling a day after Iran's foreign minister said the strait was fully open to commercial traffic, an announcement that was welcomed by Trump. Even this is Western propaganda to an extent, because if I remember correctly, the foreign minister said the strait was fully open to commercial traffic, but like on conditions. And I'm pretty sure the U.S. maintaining its blockade violated one of those. So even that sounds fake to me. Also, it's worth pointing out that typically international negotiations don't take place based on hearsay for what a single person says. Like, the foreign minister sending out a tweet is not a national confirmation of intent. You know what I mean? I feel like the quality of international negotiations have really degraded lately, I think, in large part due to Trump, because Trump does all of his negotiating via Twitter, basically. Like, no treaties are being signed. Nobody's writing down anything. So, like, I don't know to what extent can you even say any of this is a legitimate state action. Trump said Friday Iran has already agreed to hand over its stockpile of highly enriched uranium to the U.S., though Iran has rejected that claim. Yeah, okay. I mean, sounds like pretty open and shut. You know, the U.S. will actively pursue any Iran-flagged vessels or any vessel attempting to provide material support to Iran, said General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That includes dark fleet vessels carrying Iranian oil. How could the strait ever have been opened when the U.S. was still maintaining a blockade in Iranian ports? Doesn't make any damn sense. Anyway, yeah, no, the fighting continues. I'm getting really tired of covering the market manipulation because it has legitimately happened like over 20 times since the beginning of this war, 1.5 months ago. It's getting really tiring. Just assume that anytime you hear something, it's market manipulation, and anytime something changes materially without you having heard about it beforehand, it might be due to something else. I don't really know. There's not really a good heuristic for this. Gotta have an oil ticker under your cam, yeah. You know what would actually be so fucking dope? A little like mini-map pop-up over my camera that was just a live feed of the maritime traffic at the Strait of Hormuz, so we could continue to see. And every time like a red dot gets closer to the line, we're like, oh, as they turn back around. That would be pretty good. It wouldn't be too difficult either. You'd have like a browser pop-up for the maritime traffic, and you'd cut out a little window. Yeah, that would be pretty fun. We would have been able to catch that that cruise liner going through, you know? What's stopping you? Laziness, and also my fear that I would do it wrong and spend like 4 hours tech diagnosing it on stream. I don't really want to do that. Live Strait of Hormuz reaction. Just vibe code it. You're right. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty bad. I guess to like consolidate everything and end on a analytical note, I really don't think there's any way out of this. I think that the champagne bottle's been uncorked. I don't think there's any way that Iran and its proxies and the region in general continue to allow Israel to engage in its behavior. The last times that Israel, like for example, during the 6-Day War and afterwards, the United States did put its foot down, did demand that Israel gave back, you know, the significant amount of the land that they took. There was like an artifice of international pressure, the belief from Arabs in the region and, you know, Iranians, that if Israel overstepped, there would be some kind of counterbalance, but that impression is gone now. Israel can very clearly do like whatever the fuck they want with no meaningful pressure from the West, which means that nothing can really stop Israel except for Iran right now. Like, if we're not willing to do it, Iran's literally the only group in the position to do it, apart from like Hezbollah and their other proxies. But obviously Iran has a lot more international leeway than Hezbollah because they control the Strait. And I think that a future where Israel is allowed to get away with doing whatever it wants is potentially much more disastrous than one where like they reach an insurmountable obstacle. Fascist governments have to reach insurmountable obstacles. You really do not want to teach them that obstacles like this are surmountable, you know? You really don't want them to learn that lesson. I'm telling you, man, like a lot of the reason shit went down the way it did in World War II was because Germany was able to take France and Poland so easily. They got in easy wins. Austria, the Sudetenland, half of Poland and France, they all fell like dominoes, which gave the German government a ton of confidence for everything that came afterwards. It gave them so much inertia. It's why it's so good that Russia stalled out like 5 miles, you know, west of the Donbass, you know? It's good.